Good evening, Carl. I want you to be able to read this, or listen to it rather. Listen to me reading this to you. Well, before when you go to bed tomorrow, and because I'm going to work, I wanted to record this now and upload it. And I hope you'll be reading it and listening to it tomorrow night. And I hope a lot. Tonight I'm going through Dr Seuss's Sleep book, which I remember I read to you so many times when I was in Singapore. I do hope you enjoy it. The news just came in from the county of Kent that a very small bug by the name of Van Vleck is yawning so wide you can look down his neck. This may not seem very important to know, but it is, so I'm bothering to tell you so. A yawn is quite catching, you see, Carl. Like a cough, it just takes one yawn to set other yawns off. Now the news has come in that some friends of Van Vleck's are yawning so wide you can look down their necks. In this moment right now, under 7 more noses, grey yawns and blossom, they're blooming like roses. The yawn of that one little bug is still spreading. According to the latest reports, it is heading across the wide fields through the sleepy night air, across the whole country toward every which way, and people are gradually starting to say, I feel rather drowsy, I've had rather day. Creatures are starting to think about rest. 2 biffer-bound birds are building their nest. They do it each night, and quite often I wonder, Carl, how do they do this big job without making a blunder? But that is their problem, not yours, and not mine. The point is, they're going to bed, and that is just fine. Sleep thoughts are spreading throughout the whole land. The time for night brushing of teeth is at hand. I hope you've brushed your teeth, Carl. Up at Herkheimer Falls, where the great river rushes and crashes down crags in great gardening gushes, the Herkheimer sisters are using their brushes. The falls are just grand for toothbrushing beneath, if you happen to be up that way with your teeth. The news just came in from the Castle of Crop that the lights are all out and the drawbridge up, and the old drawbridge drawer has said with a yawn, the drawbridge is drawn and it's going to stay drawn until the milkman delivers the milk about dawn. So I'm going to bed now, and nobody better had come round with a special delivery letter. The number of sleepers is steadily growing. Bed is where more and more people are growing. In Culpeper Springs and the Stillwalkers Hall, the Stillwalker stills are all stacked on the wall. The Stillwalker walkers have called it a day. They're all tuckered out and they're snoozing away. And this is very big news. It's important to know, and that's why I'm bothering to tell you so. Way out west in the town of Merced, the Hinklehorn Honking Club has just went to bed. Every horn has been quietly hung on a hook for the night in its own private Hinklehorn nook. All this long happy day they've been honking about, and the Hinklehorn honkers have honked themselves out. But they'll wake up quite fresh in the morning, and then they'll start right in the Hinklehorn honking again. Everywhere creatures are falling asleep. If they collapse of a fring, just collapse in a heap. And by adding the fring to the others before, I'm able to give you the Who's Asleep score. Right now, 40,404 creatures are happily deeply in slumber, and I think you'll agree, Carl, that's a whopping fine number. Counting up sleepers, Carl? Just how do we do it? Well, really quite simple. There's nothing much to it. We find out how many, we learn the amount by an audio talio count. On a mountain halfway between Reno and Rome, we have a machine in a plexiglass dome, which listens and looks into everyone's home. And whenever it sees a new sleeper go flop, it jiggles and lets a new biggle ball drop. Our chap counts these balls as they plop in a cup, and that's how we know who's down and who's up. Do you talk in your sleep, Carl? It's a wonderful sport, and I have some news of this sport to report. The world champion sleep talkers, Joe and Mo Red Zoff, have just gone to sleep and they're talking their heads off. For 55 years now, each chattering brother has babbled and gabbled all night to each other. They've talked about laws, and they've talked about gods. They've talked about paws, and they've talked about flaws. They've talked quite a lot about old Santa Claus, and the reason I'm telling you this is because you should take up this sport, Carl. It's just fine for the jaws. Do you walk in your sleep? I've just had a report of some interesting news of this popular sport. Up in Finnegan Fen, there's a sleepwalking group which not only walks, Carl, but walks a la hoop. Every night they will go miles. Why they walk to such length, they have to keep eating to keep up their strength. So every so often one puts down his hoop, stops hooping, and does some quick snooping for soup. That is why, Carl, they're known as the Hoop Soup Snoop Group. Sleepwalking, too, are the curious Crandalls, who sleepwalk on hills with assorted side candles. The Crandalls walk nightly in slumbering peace. in spite of slight burns from the hot dripping grease. The candles wear candles because they walk far, and if they wake up, want to see where they are. Now the news just arrived from the Valley of Vale that a Chippendale mupp has just bitten his tail, which he does every night before shutting his eyes. Such nipping sounds silly, but really it's wise. He has no alarm clock, but this is the way. He makes sure that he'll wake up at the right time of day. His tail is so long he won't feel any pain, till the nip makes a trip round and gets up to his brain. In exactly 8 hours, the Chippendale mupp will at last feel the bite, yell, "Ouch!" and wake up. A Mr. and Mrs. J. Carmichael Crocks have just gone to bed near the town of Fort Knox, and they, I may tell you, Carl, have the finest of clocks. I'm not at all sure that I quite understand just how the thing works without one extra hand, but I do know this clock does one very slick trick. It doesn't go tick-tock, Carl. How it goes is tock-tick. So with ticks in its tocker and tocks in its ticker, it saves quite a lot of time, and the sleepers sleep quicker. What a fine night for sleeping, Carl. From all that I hear, it's the best night for sleeping in many a year. They're even asleep in the Sweeback Motel, and people don't usually sleep there too well. The beds are like rocks, and everyone knows the seats are too short. They won't cover your toes. So if people are actually sleeping in there, it's a great night for sleeping. It must be the air. It's a great night for snores. I've just had a report of some boys who were tops in this musical sport. The snortiest snorers in all of this fair land are Snorter MacPhail and the Snort Band. This band can snort Dixie and Old Swanee River so loud it will make 40 elephants shiver. The loudest of all the boys is MacPhail. He snores with his head in a 3-gallon pail. So they snore in a cave 20 miles out of town. If they snored close in, they'd snore the town down. Do you know, Carl, who's asleep out in Funa Laguna? Well, 2 very nice Funa Laguna baboona. We've added them to our Who's Asleep count, which has grown to a really amazing amount. Exactly 8,808 creatures sleeping now. Isn't that great? A jed is in bed, and the bed of a jed is the softest of beds in the world, it is said. He makes it from pom-poms that grow in his head. And he's sleeping right now on the softest stuff, completely exhausted from growing this stuff. The news has come in from the district of Doft that 2 oft are asleep when they're sleeping aloft. Just how they're able to sleep off the ground, I'll tell you. I weighed one last week and I found that an oft is so light he weighs -1 pound. A goose is asleep. He's dreaming of moose drinks. A moose is asleep. He's dreaming of moose drinks. That's all well and good when a moose dreams of moose juice, and nothing goes wrong when a goose dreams of goose juice. But it isn't too good when a moose and a goose start dreaming they're drinking the other one's juice. Moose juice, not goose juice, is juice for moose. And goose juice, not moose juice, is juice for a goose. So when a goose gets a mouthful of the juices of mooses, and a moose gets a mouthful of the juices of gooses, they always fall out of their beds screaming screams. So, I'm telling you, Carl, never drink in your dreams. Now, speaking of dreaming, Carl, I think you should note that the Bumbletub Club is now dreaming afloat. And every night they go dreaming down Bumbletub Creek, except for a night in the 3rd and 4th week, when they stop for repairs because their Bumbletubs leak. But tonight they're afloat full of dreams full of bliss, and that's why I'm bothering to tell you this. At a fork in the road in the Vale of Ivode, 5-foot worry salesmen have laid down their load. All day they've raced around the heat at top speeds, unsuccessfully trying to sell Zizazoo seeds, which nobody wants because nobody needs. Tomorrow will come and they'll go back to their chore. They'll start on the road zizzazoofing once more. But tonight they've forgotten their feet are so sore, and that's what the wonderful nighttime is for. Everywhere creatures have shut off their voices. They've all gone to bed in the beds of their choices. They're sleeping in bushes, they're sleeping in crannies, and some on their stomachs and some on their fannies. They're peacefully sleeping in comfortable holes, some even on soft-top barbershop poles. The number of sleepers is now past the millions. The number of sleepers, Carl, is now in the billions. They're sleeping on steps and on strings and on floors and in mailboxes and ships and the keyholes of doors. Every worm in the fish hook is safe for the night. Every fish in the sea is too sleepy to bite. Every whale in the ocean has turned off his spout. Every light from here to Farfoodle is out. Now adding things up, we're way before billions. Our Who's Asleep score is now in the zillions. 99 zillion, 9 trillion and 2 creatures are sleeping. So, Carl, how about you? When you put out your light, Carl, the number will be 99 zillion, 9 trillion and 3. Good night, my little angel. Miss you very much. Sweet dreams, and I look for you in the dreamlands.